holidays are just around the corner, and while I love Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm soaking in every last bit of these slower days of fall and just doing everything I can to prepare myself to handle the holidays with ease. Our days are pretty structured right now because of homeschool and running our business, but we're also finding time to experiment in the kitchen and even research new ideas to implement next spring. I've been honing my sourdough skills by trying my hand at making sourdough cinnamon rolls, and today I have plans to try out another new recipe along with a few loaves of normal sourdough sandwich bread. And of course, we still have a few loose ends to tie up outside before winter settles in for good. I mixed up a batch of bread. It should be 3 loaves, and then we're also going to be trying out a new recipe for graham crackers. One thing that I've really been trying to do lately is to pass on my skills to my children. It's one thing that just really hit me. I think when we were at the HOA conference, it really hit me that I need to be more intentional about teaching my children the skills that I have. I think it's just so normal for me. I've been doing these things since I was a kid. It's so normal for me that sometimes I forget to actually intentionally teach my kids how to bake. I want sourdough to be intuitive for my kids when they grow up. It takes time, it takes patience. Sometimes it takes do-overs, all those things, which is kind of why I steer clear. I like to just do things myself. But I'm trying to involve my kids more, and it's really fun. There you go. Whenever I make sourdough things, I like to get that started first thing in the morning so that they have all day to rise. I really like to do my sourdough things just all in one day rather than having long fridge ferments and stuff. I'm sure someday I'll use the whole fridge ferment thing, but for now it's just nice to get it done in one day. So usually what I do is I feed my sourdough starter the night before, and then first thing in the morning I mix everything up and let it rise for the day. Just get it all evenly coated with flour, like knead it up a little bit. Just a few times, don't let it stick to the table. Now just like kind of roll it in the flour. This graham cracker dough is supposed to be in the fridge. You're supposed to let it long ferment in the fridge for 2 days. I'm not gonna do that. I am going to leave it out on the counter for the day, and then I'll stick it into the fridge about an hour before we're ready to roll it out and bake it, because you do want the dough chilled before you bake it. I just don't feel like waiting on it for 2 days. Who wants to wait for graham crackers for 2 days? And I'm not worried about the ingredients in it going bad in a day. So I'm just gonna do a nice warm ferment.
We're glad to have Sundays for Dogs sponsoring today's video. Cowboy really loves this dog food. She's much more excited when we pour her some sundaes versus her other kibble food. This food is also much healthier for her. It's mostly meat with some fruits and veggies in there, whole food ingredients without all the junk fillers that most dog foods have. They're actually considered human-grade ingredients, and the recipes were formulated by a veterinarian. There are other high-quality, fresh dog foods out there, but those require refrigeration, and then you usually have to prepare them before you feed them to your dog. Sundays for Dogs is air-dried, so it retains lots of high-quality nutrients, and then you can just store it in the bag and then pour and serve it. Seeing how much Cowboy loves this dog food, I'm confident that your dog will too, and we've got a code that you can get 50% off your first order, and the link is in the description.
So you can't go 20 goes into 6 how many times?
While Michelle is helping the kids with their school, I am going to start on a new project. I already got the lumber for it last night, all here in a nice stack on my truck, but before I can unload that and get started, I've got some prep work to do down here. I hadn't actually really been planning on starting this project until recently, and this is part of the reason that I finally made up my mind to do it. This plastic here on our hoop house had a couple holes in it that I didn't fix. The wind caught it and just peeled the plastic off the top. And for reasons which I'm not going to go into right now, this hoop house might not be a permanent fixture here. And so instead of spending the money on plastic to put on top and taking the time to do that, I decided I'm just gonna build a new chicken coop. This hoop house worked awesome as a chicken coop when we had like 200 chickens, but for what we've got now, it's way overkill. Now it would still work really well, but it is overkill, and we've got some other plans that we might need this space for something else later. So I wanna build a smaller chicken coop, actually something kind of like this here that the ducks have been using. This was the very first chicken coop that I built while we were still renting in a basement apartment, and it has worked great, but it is not big enough for the amount of chickens and ducks that we have for the winter. So before I can get started building this new chicken coop, I'm gonna need to move this one, because where I'm gonna put the new one is right here. I'm gonna just move it forward as much as I need to build the new one behind it. I can't actually just completely get it out of the way and take this fence down and stuff, because there's no way I'm gonna get that chicken coop done in one day, and I'm gonna need this for the ducks to still go into at night until the new one is finished.
The kids are up from their rest time, and this is the time that I always have my daily matcha. I've been dairy-free for quite a while now, as some of you know. Quite a while is in like 2 months or something. And it's been really hard, but I have found my groove. I found recipes that I really like and that I can actually look forward to and enjoy, which makes a really big difference. I'm feeling really good. We've had a whole bunch of beeswax that was really dirty and gross sitting down in our basement for a long time now. And last week I decided to render it and see if I can make some really nice beeswax out of it. Check this out, absolutely beautiful. It was so much fun to do it. And now I can't wait to have more to render, because the process is so satisfying. And I have been experimenting with making beeswax candles. I had no idea it was so difficult. Maybe it's just me making it difficult, but you can see this one has all kinds of cracks in it. It pulled away from the sides, which means I poured it when the beeswax was too hot. So I'm gonna try to let the beeswax cool down just a tiny bit this time before pouring it and see if that makes a difference. I made a couple before I made these two, and they tunneled really bad, all the different things. So I've just been playing around with it, doing all kinds of research, and I'm going to try to make another one today and see if I can get it right this time. This one, you can tell, is not nearly as yellow. I added other oils to this, which I think is what I'm gonna do again today. This one still is burning terribly. It has a wood wick that just didn't work. Another thing I wanna try is making this organic elderberry syrup kit from Purely Parsons. They sent this to me to try out, and I'm really excited because I make elderberry syrup every year, and I'd love to see how this one turns out. I'm feeling like really into homemade Christmas gifts this year. Like, this is the type of thing that I would like to get in a Christmas present rather than some kind of cheap trinket or even decor stuff that I just don't use. I would rather get something really practical. So anyways, that's part of the reason why I'm experimenting with so many things, is I would love to give some of these things away for gifts this year. The ratio today that I'm going to try is 2 parts of beeswax to 1 part coconut oil. And you guys can let me know if you have the perfect candle solutions for me, because this is totally just me experimenting over and over again. Some of my candles I've just melted back down and started completely over. Last time I tried grating this with a cheese grater, and it was such hard work. I know I look like I'm struggling, but this is easier than the cheese grater by far. I've just been reusing this 1 jar because beeswax is a beast to try to get out of, to try to like clean out of stuff. So I'm just reusing this one over and over. This is my janky double boiler setup. If you do this, you don't want to let your water boil too hard or the water will jump up into the jar. One of the reasons that I was so excited about making a pure beeswax candle was because I read somewhere that the light that comes from the flame of a beeswax candle is similar to, like, it's the same spectrum as the sun gives off, and I just thought that was so cool. I'm sure a little bit of coconut oil won't make a big difference, but I just feel like I kind of fell on my face when it came to the pure beeswax candles. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I just felt like it was maybe a little bit too finicky, and I wasn't in the mood to make like the tall taper candles. So if anybody has any advice, feel free to give it to me. I grabbed these wicks off of Amazon, and I'm not necessarily gonna link them because I'm not thoroughly pleased with them. I just feel like they don't burn very hot. Maybe, I think that's part of the problem with my candle issues, but I don't want to waste them, so I'm gonna keep trying. There's just a sticker on the bottom that peels off, and then you stick it in the bottom of your jar. Very, very simple to do. And then this thing keeps it square in the middle so that when you pour your wax, it will harden in the middle instead of on the side. While this continues to melt down, I'm gonna start on my elderberry syrup. This kit looks super, super simple. Basically, you just are gonna simmer the contents of the bag with a quart of water for 30 minutes and then strain it and then add honey. I'm really hoping to have our own elderberries next year. I was so gonna get those planted this year. Just didn't get it done. That smells so good. This elderberry syrup is simmering now, so I'm gonna cover it and let it simmer for 30 minutes. And while this simmers, while my experiments are over here simmering on the stove, I'm just going to put my sourdough bread into pans. I forgot about it. It needs to get into pans really bad. Woo, that looks beautiful. People ask me why I poke my bread with a fork. I do this to just make sure any air bubbles are out of it. This is always what my mom did with her bread. The beeswax and coconut oil is completely melted now. So I'm gonna add in my essential oil. Cinnamon is my all-time favorite candle scent. My mom always had a cinnamon candle at this time of the year. It was her obsession, and I think I'm taking it on. And I feel like the warm notes in the cinnamon go really, really well with like the honey scent that comes out of the beeswax. Me and Tirza are going to roll out these graham crackers now. This is our first time making these, so we'll see how it goes. These have been fermenting all day long. It's about close to 5 o'clock now. So we're gonna roll these out in between parchment paper to about 1/8 of an inch thick, and we'll see how it goes. I did not end up getting these refrigerated like I thought I was going to, so we're just kind of winging it here. Okay, this beeswax is cool for about 5-10 minutes or something, and so I'm going to pour this. When you're pouring a candle, you want to try to pour it all in one shot. It just looks best that way. So now we're not going to touch it, just going to let it harden. So this elderberry syrup has simmered for 30 minutes and I'm gonna strain it and then I'm gonna add some honey into it. It's like this deep, deep, beautiful brown color. I wish you could smell it in this kitchen. It smells like honey and cinnamon and elderberry, all kinds of things going on. This is honey from our bees. This feels like a very good use for honey from our own bees. I'm just gonna put about a half cup in. Last year I made it too sweet to the point that the kids didn't want to take it because they thought it was too sweet. So I'm not gonna add too much this time. That tastes right. Wow, that's really good actually.
Now that we've gone through time change, it gets dark a lot earlier. I've always said, whoever came up with time change definitely never milked cows or had small children. This is probably about all I'm gonna get done with this chicken coop for today. Just getting this bottom part put in. I felt like I at least needed to get this put together. So I felt like I actually built a little bit of something. Then I really wanna go on a run before it gets dark. And then I've got something else that I wanna work on inside. Kind of go along with some of Michelle's projects, I guess. Now that this footprint is here, you can get a little bit of an idea of how big this is gonna be. It's gonna be 8 by 12. I think that's gonna be a really good size for just the actual indoor coop part. And then I'll be adding a run onto the front later. I'm not gonna do that right away just because I didn't want to have more material sitting around. I at least wanted to get this part done before winter gets here. Then I'll try to get the other part done really soon. Might just not happen right away. Sometimes the hardest part of a project is just getting started, so at least it's started. That stump there in the middle, I guess I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't feel like taking the time or the money to get it out right now. I can always cut it down later, even after the chicken coop is there. This coop is also meant to be mobile, not as in just moving it around every day or anything, but if I ever want to move it, I'm not gonna actually put posts in the ground to hold it to the ground. And real quick, just in case you were wondering why in the world I'm working on a big chicken coop when some of you know that my office isn't finished yet, it's actually coming along really nicely. It's kind of echoey in here. The drywall is up, and I'm actually waiting for it to be mudded right now before I can keep on doing the other stuff. I put shiplap on the ceiling. That'll need to get painted. The walls painted, the floor in, and the trim up. I'm having somebody do the drywall mudding for me, and my dad is making the trim for me. And so this could actually get done pretty quickly. But while I'm waiting for the mudding to get done, I'm gonna keep working on that chicken coop. Michelle was on her run and I didn't want to leave the kids alone, so I see her coming up the road, so I'm gonna get going on my run. I've been running every other day and doing strength training every other day. It's been feeling really good. I just ran a 10K last weekend, and a couple weeks from now I'm gonna be running a 5K, so I definitely need to keep the running up. But I also really like to be doing strength training. I feel really good when I'm doing that, and I know that it's also really good for me. I'm gonna make another batch of Mead. I made one a while back that was really, really good. I should have just made another one right away, but it's one of those things that I put off. So I wanna get this one made. I'm gonna use the same recipe that I did before. It's one that I got from the YouTube channel City Steading. They also have a blog. They're really good at explaining this stuff. And this is just a really simple beginner Mead. But like I said, it was really tasty. So I'm just gonna do one exactly like that. And then I think maybe in a few weeks or so, I might try like a different flavor. I also wanna try making raspberry wine this winter since we've got so many raspberries. I'll give you kind of a general overview of what I'm doing here, the ingredients that I'm using and stuff, but I'm not gonna give a detailed explanation because I really have no authority in this area whatsoever. First thing that's going in here is some raisins, a couple ounces of that. And I did sanitize all of the stuff that I'm using before I started. Now I'm gonna be putting 3 pounds of honey in here. That's a lot of honey. Unfortunately, I can't use the honey from our bees because I don't have enough. I'm still using raw honey. And then hopefully next year we'll get enough honey that we can use our own. Now some orange peels are going in. He used dried orange peels and suggested grated orange peels, but these are neither dried nor grated, they're just fresh. And he said that's fine too. This is some black tea that's been brewing while I've been doing this. This hot black tea also cleans the honey out of the foam. Now it just needs to be filled up partially with water, and then as he puts it, we will
shake the bejesus out of it.
All right, before I add the yeast to this, I'm gonna take a reading with a hydrometer, and I don't really know all the science behind this stuff. Basically, the reading that I take now compared to the reading what I get at the end, tell me how much alcohol there is in there. Now I'm gonna add some yeast. This is just bread yeast, and he said this is very contentious in the mead making world, but it works, and it's simple, and it's cheap, so that's what we're gonna do. Now this just gets an airlock in the top, and then this will get put like down in the basement or something where it's dark and not too warm, not too cold. We let it sit for a few weeks, check it, and maybe swirl it up every once in a while, and I will keep you guys updated. Oh, that's good. Michelle mentioned earlier in the video that Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming up. Last year, we did a video about the Thanksgiving meal that we made. Lots of really good food in that video and recipes and stuff. I'm gonna put that on the screen right here for you to watch next.